to the Red Web Live. Look at us. You can see our faces. So yeah, no, we're not all down with that running around in public maskless. You know, that's your personal choice. But here at Dragon's Lair Comics and Fantasy, where we're filming live, we have our own little private room, and we've all been vaccinated. So if you haven't been vaccinated, go do that. Go do that. It's your responsibility as a citizen. And I don't want to hear anything about, like, you know, nanotech and the government watching this, just whatever. I mean, we read comic books and we're into sci-fi, but none of us believes that, so you shouldn't believe it either.
Yeah, they promised us a metal arm and neither of us have it.
Right.
So
yeah, I need bionics right now.
No.
I just need to be able to get upstairs.
I was supposed to be a cyborg. This is such a scam.
Awesome. So anyway, here we are. I'm of course your host, Brad West, and this is the lovely Miss Anastasia Anderson. Yay! She's going to help us with keeping our facts straight. She's our fact checker. She's gotten really good at that. And of course, my partner in crime fighting, Mr. Greg Burrow. And we're hoping to actually start seeing everybody out at conventions before too long, responsibly, of course. And but we're looking forward to that. Today on the Red Web, we're going to be talking about superhero fashions. This is a fashion month for us. You're going to have a lot of fun with us because next week we're going to be talking about the Hellfire Gala. We'll follow up some more.
Next week, the week after.
Oh, the week after. Next episode.
Next show. And we have a very special guest for that episode.
It's going to be so fun.
A professional fashion designer who was actually on.
Go ahead.
Oh, Project Runway.
Project Runway, that's right.
Sorry, they wanted it to be dramatic, and I was like, I almost forgot what it was. But yeah, Project Runway.
We're also both fashion students. I told you one time that Project Runway actually contacted me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in like 2012. They actually wanted me to apply because they had saw all my cosplay stuff and everything. And and me and Bo talked about it. I'm like, you know, I do not have the personality that would go well. Like, I know how reality shows work, and they would edit the 5 minutes a day. I lose my crap and melt down, and then they would make me look like freaking Donald the Duck all the way through. Well, I did like an hour of me just like exploding, and that would be what everybody. Not that everybody thinks I'm calm anyway, but you know, whatever.
Right. Well, and I've talked to our local like Austin dezgners that were on Project Runway, and most of them are like, "Yeah,
don't do it.
Really stressful.
It's really stressful. I don't handle stress well, so." It would be the first on-screen murder on Project Runway, and it would sell. But you know.
Yeah. Anyway. So this will be the low maintenance episode.
Yeah, Samantha's been here and done stuff here for Dragon's Lair before. She was actually a cosplay judge for one of our cosplay symposium.
I remember because one of those years I was Union Jack. I got second place.
Yeah, there you go.
I got second place. I got a lot of great stuff for that. I still use that makeup. It's still good.
Nice.
So
we're gonna make it. It's like this is gonna be the more low maintenance episode where we just bitch about nothing. And the next one's gonna be the super serious one. If you haven't had the preview issue yet, if you go to Dragon's Lair, there's the
Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, there's the Hellfire Gala one that has all of the fashions that are coming up.
It's a whole X-Men thing. You're going to love it. It's going to be a thing.
We're going to sit and talk about them. We have issues with a couple of them, but they're really, really good.
Mystique. It's all about the Mystique.
Oh my God, right? Mystique. I love that dress. I want to see that on somebody in real life.
And there's a couple of Emma Frost dresses that I was like,
Cosplay heaven.
Cosplay heaven.
Oh, yeah.
But today, to kind of get us rolling in the right direction, we're going to be talking about some of the worst superhero costume designs in
redesigns, I guess.
We found some weird ones.
Yeah, we can do bad costume designs. That's a whole other thing. You go deep in like
But I mean, we've got some heroes here who their fashions are perfect and awesome and wonderful and
iconic looks, timeless iconic looks, and I'll be honest with you, the 90s are the biggest offender, and we're gonna, you know, everybody knows the extreme 90s, so
our extreme phase.
But some of these are really, you know, actually, we had to go through a lot of them to figure out which ones to use because there were some that I just really liked that weren't as bad as everybody those them out to be. You know, like mullet Superman, it was a big deal, and I'm like, you know, I don't think that.
I personally liked the costume. It made perfect sense in the context of the story.
Yeah, I just think the hair's silly. It's like, well, and there's some costumes that people are like, I don't like it. That we were like, it's not that you don't like the costume, it's that you don't like the person that's in the costume.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the personality of the character or whatever, or that's just what they're not used to. But at the same time, it really actually is a solid design. For instance, you know,
Electric Superman.
Electric Superman was a great design, and nobody just liked the Electric Superman story. I love the Electric Superman story. If you've not read Superman Blue from the 90s, it's a fun story. It's a great Silver Age throwback kind of nod story. It's really fun, and it's a good story for it being what it was.
And also, like even like Spider-Man, the black costume is perfectly wonderful, great.
But people didn't like it.
But people didn't like it because it was not the iconic red and blue Spider-Man.
Right. They were more caught up on. It's like they see a new costume. We don't like change.
Yeah.
So
I personally, that was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, started reading comic books and Spider-Man. It was the Secret Wars where he gets the Spider-Man costume. I love the black costume.
Yeah,
I loved it. And a lot of people nowadays look back on it with what we call nostalgia glasses. You know, it kind of like changes it. And now people are more warmed up to it, especially since it was such a good design. It went on to become, of course, the costume of Venom, and it fit that character perfectly. So, you know, in the long run, it was good. But we're going to be going over some designs that are just way out of left field. It's like some of them are like, what were you thinking? There are some of them that have like slight story reasons behind them.
Yeah, but even the story reasons.
But even some of them are kind of lame.
So I want all three of us to say the title of this show together.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Where's my super suit? These are costumes that left us thinking, where's my super suit? Where's the one I like? Where's what I like? Where's the good super suit?
We found some bad ones.
We found some bad ones. So we're going to start off with, now we broke it down into 2 sections.
One of the most iconic heroes.
Now we've had a few ideas for other sections. Maybe we'll come back to them later. But basically, we're going to do 2. One is it's the same character with a new look. So that character has just got a new look, and he's still that same code name.
Yeah.
The second section we're going to follow up with is actually slightly different. It's that character takes on a new identity. So the reason for those changes is obvious. They have a new identity for whatever reason. So starting off though, same character, new look. We're going to go with the classic. Invisible Woman.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. She made such a point in the comic book to go from Invisible Girl to Invisible Woman because she was married and she has children and she was trying to be taken seriously as a powerful woman. And then for whatever reason, I don't even know what started this, to be honest with you. We couldn't figure out why in the comic book, but she went to this. This is the icon. It's the boob window. It's a keyhole. For those of you who know fashion, it's not really a boob window. It's called a keyhole. This is a 4-shaped keyhole on her costume.
Yeah.
Really bizarre armbands and leg bands. Like, is she afraid of like straining her thighs and getting a Charlie horse now using her invisible powers? I don't know. The opera gloves and this midriff thing, and like Anna pointed out, the white, it just breaks it up in such a weird way. It's just.
Yeah, it's like basically most of my complaints are going to revolve around the same 4 issues. The color doesn't break it up correctly. There's a design that they have to do because that's just the time. Shoulder pads.
Oh yeah,
and
pouches. No, we're not even going to talk about pouches.
One of the things about this is that none of the other Fantastic Four changed their costume. It was just
her. It was just her.
Oh, you mean Johnny doesn't get to walk around with a cute little thong or something?
But there is something I want to bring up since we're talking Fantastic Four really quick. They just came out with a new series a couple weeks ago called Fantastic Four Life Story. It is so freaking good.
Yeah,
I read the Spider-Man one, which was amazing, and so this is the follow-up to it.
Yeah, it's basically what if the Comic Code Authority didn't exist. We've talked about the Comic Code Authority a lot during the show. Basically what it is the Comic Code Authority came along and
squashed any real world issue, anything that was too adult. They had to keep it, what we call family friendly. You know how that is. It's basically censorship at its worst.
So they couldn't deal with the Vietnam War. They couldn't deal with the social
issues,
drug addiction, and homelessness, and all kinds of things of that nature. Racism. Right. It was all allegorical.
Now they can, since the Comic Code Authority isn't really around anymore. So they can go back and they can do that. So each comic is a different decade. So Fantastic Four Life Story number 1 is in the 60s, and it's dealing with the Cold War, and it's dealing with the space race and science and stuff like that. And it's actually really amazing and good. And then there's going to be the second issue is going to be the 70s, third issue is going to be the 80s, and so on. And essentially, what's really kind of fun about this is they're aging in real time. Yes.
So as opposed to comic books, where we all know we've done an issue on like what is time like in comic book world and how it stretches, like it's elastic. This is like they're actually getting older as we go along. So by the time we get to the 2000s, they're like in their like 70s or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Well, in this one, I just had to make sure it is the 90s. It's like the 90s the 90s had two defining things. It was a lot of spikes and making things extreme, and for a lot of girls, they tried to
that meant more
reveal more stuff. It's like, and the things that set me off with this one were not like, I mean, the midriff stuff, I was like, okay, it's the 90s. I kind of expected this. If you look closely at the boob window's a 4.
Yeah, it is a 4 shape.
It's literally a 4 keyhole shape, which I'm already. I get annoyed when boob windows exist, but when I noticed it was a 4, I was like, oh great, cool.
Now, Greg, you made a good point about why this was, because Emma Frost.
Yeah.
Emma Frost was so popular, and it just crossed that line of suggestive.
Yeah, they just wanted to make them all sexy.
Naked. Yeah. Not just naked, but half naked, half sexy. This was Fantastic Four 371, 1992 when it started. It went on for several issues.
So 375.
It's like I'm sick of the high necks too. Like
the high necks, yeah.
It's like if you're going to commit to making it look super skimpy, the high neck just takes away the whole outfit. Like, I'm sick of looking at it.
Now, our next one, brace yourself. I actually kind of found this one fun. I remember when I was younger, I had an action figure. This is Wasp, how she first appears.
The first female Avenger.
The first female Avenger, and also the first female leader of the Avengers. And here's the thing I loved about Wasp. Before we even get to this tragic mistake of fashion, Janet Van Dyne was actually a socialite debutante and a fashion designer. And so, even though this is her original costume, she went on to have many, many, many costumes. It was actually hard to find one that we consider like iconic for her, because it literally, when George Perez, legendary writer, artist, creator George Perez, started doing Avengers, he actually made it a point for every issue of his run to give her a completely different costume, because she's rich. She's a fashion designer.
Right, she can afford to make her clothes all the time.
She should wear the same thing every time. So there's like a lot of really cool looks you can look back into and everything. But for some reason in the 90s, George was long past there. We have this. She got mutated into a humanoid wasp. Now, like I had an action figure of this that came with one of my SpiderMan toys, and I loved it. I just thought it was so cool when I was younger. Looking back at it now, it's just like, what is this mess? The wings don't even look like a wasp. They look like a dragonfly to me.
Well, and it's like, my big complaint with this one is just the hair's silly.
The hair's silly.
Like
with the antennas and the whole thing.
It's not a totally unusual thing for them to be like, we're gonna make a literal version of them, but it's like, it's one of those, it would have been fine, except for the hair's really distracting.
But you know, the colors pop, that's for sure.
I like the colors.
It's got a really good color scheme.
And honestly, if you chop off the wings and change the hair and basically all the stuff that makes her insectoid, it's kind of a neat costume.
Yeah, it is actually
it's cool. Like, that one's just more of it's jarring because, we're trying to make her look more insect-like, and it's like, wait.
But I kind of like this one. This one actually appears in Avengers 394. This came out in 1995. Like I said, brace yourselves. A lot of these are going to be from the 90s.
A lot of these are from the 90s.
But not all of them. Not all of them.
A couple of them are disasters.
So moving on, look at some DC comic ones. Here we have, of course, Wonder Woman. Everybody knows Wonder Woman. She's had some variation of this look, either with or without the skirt, and it's always very iconic, and it's very easy, and with some tweaks here and there from different artists, etc., etc.
Right.
But then, of course, we get to the 90s, and after the death of Superman, when they temporarily placed him, they went on this trend of replacing everybody. They replaced all of them with other heroes. This is a story where Wonder Woman was predicted in a prophecy from Cassandra on the Themyscira was going to die. So Queen Hippolyta tricked her into having to reclaim her role as Wonder Woman, fought against Artemis, who was this newly discovered tribe of lost Amazons, and basically, it wasn't fair, they didn't get to compete, so now they're going to compete, and Artemis won through Hippolyta's trickery. That way, Artemis would be the new official Wonder Woman, and she would die instead of Diana. Well, then Diana's like, well, you know what? I've still got my Amazon powers. I'm going to go out and be just Diana. That was her code name, just Diana. Even though she still has the W on the jacket. But this is what she wore. Biker shorts and a halter top.
They just made a pop of it.
And they just made a pop of it.
Well, and it's like, it's not even...
And they're calling it the contest version.
The contest? Okay, I guess now that I hear the context, I can see why. It's just there's too many straps.
I think that was the name of the story.
There's so many damn straps.
Oh yeah, the belts and the straps and
it's like
things. It's weird.
Because that's what kind of ruined it for me. Is she's got this belt with the 2 straps on there, and I'm like, I get.
And then she's got combat boots.
And combat boots.
And she has a freaking jacket.
And the jacket itself is actually kind of cute.
The jacket itself is cute, but like I'm having to come to terms with weird fashion trends from the 90s.
Oh yeah, putting a jacket on everybody was a thing.
Yeah, lining everybody up and being like, we're gonna put straps and spikes and shoulder pads and
pouches
jackets.
And jackets. So
Stuff like that. I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is really jarring.
Yeah, actually, you know what? And of all the things on this costume, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody here knows my thing with blunt bangs. I hate blunt bangs. And then for some reason, they give her blunt bangs. And then of course, when she regains the mantle of Wonder Woman, she's got wavy curly hair again and no bangs.
Right, they're just like, forget it. There's no bangs. What bangs?
And so it's the magical disappearing bangs that I'm sorry, that's one of my things I hate the most.
Right, it's one of those, it's just like people in real life who get bangs. It's just, that was a mistake. We're not talking about it anymore. Right. It's one of those, it looks like sickeningly 90s. And it's like, it looks very leathery when you see more pictures of this. And it just,
I don't know. It's like, is it S&M? Is it Jet? I don't know what we're saying with all this stuff.
Yeah, it's just it's like, but you've seen the colors and you've seen the look, and it's like it's simple and it doesn't really need to be improved on much. Like if you look at Wonder Woman costumes lined up, it's literally just mostly the same thing, but we're gonna put an extra thing here or put an extra thing here. This is so far displaced from like what I'm used to that every time I see this, I'm like, oh wow.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Now
the next one's gonna be interesting.
This one is a brace yourself.
One's so weird.
Yes. Rhodey, Iron Man.
War Machine.
Who we all know, of course, Don Cheadle, amazingly portrays.
Yes.
In his solo comic, his first ongoing solo comic, he went from this, of course, what we're used to this.
Alien War Machine.
And it was so unbelievably weird that even on the cover of the first appearance, they have to put, this is War Machine. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's literally what they wrote on it.
Like, when they posted these pictures to me, I didn't believe them. I was like, there's no way this is War Machine. And it's like, oh.
There's so much going on here. I didn't even know what to make of it.
There's more spikes. More freaking spikes.
I mean, what are they trying to make it look like here?
I guess make it look more alien-y, but I'm like, he's already a giant mechanized
just
robot.
A little bit of a Man Thing vibe to it.
It's organic, maybe. Yeah. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe
yeah, they want more of the organic element.
Like it's what is that anime that Guyver? It reminds me of the Guyver. That's what it reminds me of. Is the Guyver armor.
Well, and it's like, it's weird for me just because you don't have to change that style that much. Mm-mm. Like that is it's like the fun of having like the iron suits is that it can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it looks weird.
And it does.
It looks weird for us if he were to travel looking like regular War Machine. He already looks alien enough.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't like the weird strip going down the middle. Yep. Like they got really caught up with a bunch of stuff, and it's like you can see the little red splotches, I guess, to try to break the color up, and it just
the color's just god awful.
Well, and the strip's asymmetrical.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but why? It doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
It's like, did they give a story?
Is he wearing a dead alien corpse, maybe?
That's what I'm wondering. Did they give a reason why it changed to this, or was it just?
It was part of one of the stories. He managed to defeat some aliens and get this armor, and it just, I don't know, this is weird.
Which, given how advanced Iron Man armor is, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to replace
all this with alien tech.
Yeah,
that's safe. Nothing can go wrong here.
Yeah, it's enough for me to look at. It's enough for me to read it just for fun, but otherwise, I'm
if we'd have never told anybody this is a War Machine and you looked at it, there's no, you can't.
It looks like another dude.
There's nothing. At least Wonder Woman kept the W.
Yeah.
Okay, next one's gonna be a fun one as well. Thor.
This one has
version.
Everybody everybody knows Thor's iconic look. I mean, the modern ones, the modern versions are trying to like incorporate elements from the MCU movies, and we get that and everything. But there's just something so clean and iconic and perfect about Thor's design. And over the years, it just even other media comes back to that in one way or another. And I can't stress how much this is just enough of it being godly or otherworldly and still superhero-y, and combining those together. The colors are great. And the silver discs as the armor pieces, they really just kind of give you that
right. And if you want to change it, you don't have to do much to change it.
Yeah.
It's like you can chop off the discs, and it's like, okay.
Oh, even now, every version has some version of those discs, and that's kind of what reads Thor.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, whatever, we get heavy metal crop top Thor.
Crop top Thor.
There is just so much.
It's those diddly dang straps again.
There's the straps. There's the leather, the gloves. There's the belt.
There's those diddly dang shoulder pads too.
The shoulder pads and the hair. I don't know what was up with this, but they were trying to say I guess they were trying to make it more metal.
Yeah, this isn't like, this looks like a metal cover.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Like
even the slight redesign on Hela here in red.
Which
looks amazing though.
Right, it's so sad. Hela looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like that looks amazing. Like I would have loved to see that moving around in person.
Like if I were to see this like painted, oil painted, like Franzetta style, you know what I mean? That would actually be pretty boss.
Awesome. Yeah, like this would be a really cool watercolor or something. But yeah, they decided to give them the straps, and for some, I don't understand the
Vallejo, yeah.
Julie Bell.
It's like and it's weird. Maybe it's because this kind of implicates a certain trend for me, but hiking it up to a crop top and then giving him the straps just implies.
And what's really funny
about
these kinds of designs, they detract from how morphed the anatomy is. If you were to actually if you were to break down this costume and remove it and just have the illustration of the figure, the anatomy would be so bizarrely warped. But it's harder to see with all of this stuff. And this I completely blame Liefeld. It's a Liefeld thing in my brain.
Right. Well, and I finally remembered the thing I was complaining about when we did the practice thing. These are sculpted people. These are sculpted, near perfect looking gods. And so to put shoulder pads and other stuff to try to emphasize it, it looks jarring to me, because they already look not realistic and not human. So it's like adding more girth to him, it's really distracting.
It's a lot. It's
like you don't need to.
Speaking of Rob Liefeld, we did when we were discussing how we were going to do this. You know what? I will never stop. I'm sorry. I tried at the beginning of the run on this show to be nice, but it's just irks. God. I know there's a lot of fans out there, and I try to respect you. I know there's people who really, really love Rob Liefeld. Okay, I get that. I accept that, but oh God. And when we were talking about doing this show and everything, and we found so many other designs from alternate realities or reboots or something like that, we decided that they deserve their own show. So, and one of the big ones is we're going to do Heroes Reborn. We're going to do that at some point in the future. Right now, they're actually doing a resurgence of the Heroes Reborn, which I don't even understand why, but it's kind of out there too. But the original Heroes Reborn 25 years ago, they spun off a lot of the characters from Marvel into their own separate sub-pocket universe, and let some of the big names at the time, including Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and all those guys who kind of redefined some of the 90s stuff, have their go at it. And that's a whole nother ugly Thor for a whole nother day.
Yeah.
Right there.
It did not look good.
It was a whole nother ugly Thor.
We found so many of those, we were finally just like, forget it. We'll just make that a new.
And we also decided we're going to do New 52.
Oh, New 52, because it's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's all wrong.
All of those are going to be just whole new episodes, because otherwise we'd just be here all day.
So moving on, a modern one that kind of just blew us away. SpiderMan, iconic costume, and he's had several different other fun costumes for temporary times. All of them at least red SpiderMan. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even if they weren't even the right.
Black suit.
Except for the black suit, but I think the black suit was really. I like the black suit.
And then there was Future Foundation.
You know, I love that Future Foundation suit.
It was all white.
That was really amazing, especially when it turned into stealth mode and it flopped, and it was really cool. I loved the Future Foundation personally. However, recent storyline in the Spider-Man comics, in which, for those of you who don't know, about a year or two ago, Peter came out to Jameson as Spider-Man, and they became friends, actually. Jameson started supporting Spider-Man and, telling the world that he's a good guy now. And Jameson, having been released from his duties as the publisher of Daily Bugle, decided that his future was going to be in online media. And so he created this website, news site, to follow superheroes and supervillain activity called Threats and Menaces. And with Peter now on his side and Jameson using his investigative powers, Jameson became the new man in the chair for Peter, and they start teaming up. And Peter, is needing work and everything. So Jameson's like, hey, work for me for my website. And he creates this suit for him. I don't remember who he has to create the suit, actually, but it's Jameson. Basically, the idea is this suit will allow Jameson to not only help and support Spider-Man, but for him to also record live what's going on when he's fighting villains. So basically now this Jameson's website has this live feed of Spider-Man's fights and everything, and right. Peter's like a little iffy about it. His way of selling it basically is like, hey, what difference is this than you taking pictures of yourself as Spider-Man and selling them to the Bugle to support yourself? This is kind of just the next logical step in that, in moving with the modern technology.
Right, fair.
Story-wise, I'm okay with it.
I do like that. The story sounded good when you pitched it.
This costume is the biggest eyesore. I just don't get where they went with why the white and the orange.
This one was a hard one for us because this is a combination of I can see why people don't like it, but also this is his personal hangout. This is his personal hangout.
I don't like the white, and it's like the white. Okay, and I know my theory why they put the white is because the white on the Sony PlayStation game, the big white spider, was really popular. And when that first came out, it was jarring. But I got used to that. I got used to that white spider. I'm like, okay, I kind of see, I've always been a less is more kind of design guy. So when things get really complicated, it starts just losing its interest for me.
That's what we forgot to do. We're going to actually color the white red and see
what it looks like.
It's like there's two things that we could do that I think would make it look less weird. Is either if we colored it red, I think you'd hate it less, or if we colored the yellow black.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's the neon yellow that's like, what?
Well, another thing is the eyes in the helmet, because one of the things about Spider-Man, he had those bug eye kind of things first, but so many other characters, not just in Marvel, but in other comic books, have kind of emulated that in a way. Even Deadpool kind of has his own version of that. And once you tweak these too much, it doesn't look like Spider-Man anymore. It just looks like the eyes are one of the things that I feel really need to remain, even in the black suit. Even when McFarlane was drawing them bigger, it's still red Spider-Man. This is a helmet that I can see on in any number of other characters.
Well, and
maybe more Spider-Man Noir.
Spider-Man Noir, or because
it kind of looks like goggles.
Yeah.
What we forgot to put on here was that stupid white Spider-Man 2099 costume. That was hideous.
We're gonna
bring that one up. You know what? I'm gonna throw that one on the website when we're done. That one was really ugly too. But this one, I have no feelings for it, and I'm glad they got rid of it already. They're already getting rid of it. So.
Well, and I think the only other thing I assume the reason they did this weird bright yellow is that they're trying to make it look techy, and I'm like, you don't have to try hard to make that look techy though.
Yeah.
It's like that could be techy in the same colors.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I think that's what they're trying to do is be like, this is how. Basically, short of just copying the Spider-Man on the movies,
right.
This is probably their way of making it look high-tech.
When they did the Spider-Man Big Time costume many years back, and he had a stealth suit, and it was all black with this green design on it. That was off. And I'm like, But then it ended up becoming the same costume in red, which, again, green is not Spider-Man, but the red and the black actually looked really sweet, and that red suit, the red glowed, and it was really neat. Eventually, it was adopted by Scarlet Spider Kane, and became his stealth suit, and it has a cool look to it. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm not feeling the white for the helmet.
Yeah.
$20.99.
That's the original one. That's the original one. Look up the white one.
We were kind of on the fence about because in the story it actually makes really good sense.
It does make sense.
But
right, it has a better.
Yes,
I don't like
that one. See,
I don't like that.
I know. It's weird.
It has all the things I don't like.
It's one of those. It's weird for the sake of weird, and I don't dig that.
So the next one is Booster Gold.
I'll post this later, guys.
So
this is what Booster Gold looks like.
Now, honestly, though, it's an iconic costume, but I honestly still miss the pop collar from his. Originally, his costume had this really cool collar, and I think that's like a really good element of it. But sorry. But
well, for a dude named Booster Gold, I kind of would expect a pop collar.
The thing is he's also from the future.
He's from the future, yeah.
So. Then I especially would assume a pop collar. But that's my age.
But I love this character. I think Booster Gold will make an amazing movie or something. He's got such an interesting, unique style, and for his time, especially when he came out, he was such an out of the ballpark, really thinking new kind of idea. He was a corporate sponsored superhero who was a glory hound. And he came back to the past to be a superhero because he wanted the attention, and he used his knowledge of the future to help him. And before he actually starts finding out how to be a real superhero, and he's a really interesting, unique character. I love him a lot.
Right. Plus, we've got to get that money making machine going. But it's like you might as well.
Then, of course, we get the extreme 90s. And not only is it just literally, this is from a comic book called Extreme Justice. Literally called Extreme Justice. Extreme Justice number 0. So Captain Atom, if you're not familiar with him, is like a superpowered. He's actually an Air Force captain and very military minded. So he decides he's going to break off and create his own separate Justice League that's proactive and isn't going to wait for people to get hurt. They were going to hunt down and find villains and criminals before they had a chance to do stuff. The reasons for this costume, this tech costume, is because previously before this, we had the death of Superman. Now, at the time, Booster Gold was on Justice League, and while Doomsday was rampaging through Metropolis, the Justice League go to stop him, and he wipes the floor with them, literally wipes the floor with Booster Gold, who has this futuristic armor that's body, skin tight, or whatever. Well, Doomsday not only destroys his force field and everything else, he breaks his body. He leaves him broken. Blue Beetle, who is like one of my favorite DC characters, is basically, I call him the happy Batman. He's a super genius. He's a tech genius. He builds all of his equipment and everything.
Takes a dark, creepy turn at the end.
But... And Blue Beetle and Booster Gold are best friends. If you ever read the DeMatteis and the whole era of Justice League International, you love the characters together. In fact, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle on TV show would be amazing. Blue Beetle creates him this mobile cast thing. It's literally healing him as it allows him to continue to move and fight crime. So this one actually has a purpose to it.
Yeah.
But it's still clunky and extreme.
I wasn't too mad because it looked like, if you told me that is a full body cast, I'd be like, yeah, that looks like a full body cast.
Yeah. So.
It's like, but it's still, it's like a lot of these looks start to look the same after a while.
And it takes away the futuristic element.
Right, because we had Iron Man by now. So it's like, who cares?
And we start having so many Iron Man.
It's a robot dude.
And the reason we put this one in here is because you're going to see here in a minute, shoulder pads and all that stuff was big in the 90s, but so was needlessly giving characters armor. So this one's forgivable.
Yeah.
But we're going to move on to another comic book.
Which is actually topical because of the fact that we just saw the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Which is
amazing. One of the main characters there, of course, is U.S. Agent.
Yes, John Walker, U.S. Agent, who is like basically the edgier Captain America in the comic book.
He is Captain America, but edgy.
For a while, yes. So in this story, before we go to the picture, I'm going to set this up. It's very similar to Extreme Justice. It's the same exact concept. Marvel and DC have a tendency to copy each other all the time. It's like, tit for tat. And Marvel's version of Extreme Justice was Iron Man decides he's going to split off from the Avengers and create his own tech company, move to California, and he's going to preemptively fight crime before people get hurt. He calls it ForceWorks.
Yep.
ForceWorks #1. He brings U.S. Agent on as his new Captain America, substitute. But he decides to give him this new, edgier armor look that is designed by Iron Man, who designs him, of course, an energy shield to supplement the loss of the Captain America shield, which is actually what I'm expecting. I'm expecting, if they continue using John Walker in the MCU, look for this energy shield. It's going to happen.
Well,
it's going to happen.
It makes sense because even with Iron Man dead, they still are really trying to do the ripple effect of, oh, but he's still here. He's always going to be here.
Yes, his influence is endless. And
yeah, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if that popped up.
But
as long as they don't give him the stupid looking gloves.
I don't understand. Yeah, the gloves.
I don't like the gloves.
Have the Iron Man tech in them. The gloves are Iron Man's tech, and they do other things. Now, one of the cool things I do like about this, if you watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series, the character of Coulson, who loses his hand at one point, they replace his hand with a cybernetic hand. And one of my favorite things is they actually give him the energy shield on the show, and it actually looks like the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, but it's an actual shield. And that's, of course, a nod to the U.S. Agent Energy Shield here like that. So that's a cool element, but the rest of it, it's like...
It's like, I don't like that. It's the same problem of this is a fairly well-sculpted dude, and we're breaking off all the stuff I don't like.
Yeah, the lines are bad. It doesn't read America at all. I don't even understand the logo. Is it supposed to be some kind of stylized eagle? Or I don't know.
Well, and in his story, after a while, he kind of, like, the main part of his story arc is exactly like Captain America's, where he gets more disillusioned with being an American. And so he kind of starts breaking away from his identity as like an American soldier and just starts doing his own thing, which I get. But the problem is that I really like the John Walker costume. I love the U.S. Agent costume.
It is a good design.
And you don't have to do much.
And this is telling you the power of a good design. Like, everybody hated John Walker on the show.
But that costume was so good.
But at the end, it wasn't because they liked the character better. That suit was so good.
It was my favorite.
It actually made people like the character. That's how powerful the right costume design is in a superhero comic book.
Well, and I think that how people are eventually going to give him a chance is that the reason they didn't like him is because he wasn't Captain America.
Right.
He wasn't Steve Rogers. And so once he kind of veers off into his own thing, his stories are actually kind of cool.
Yeah, he's got some really good.
They kind of suck.
It's totally unfair to put a normal person. I mean, especially Steve Rogers was one of a kind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to put somebody in the shoes of having to fulfill those shoes, that's an impossible task.
Yeah.
I think that out of everybody, I think that I was very happy that it was Sam Wilson.
It was, and they did an amazing job on that story.
I cried.
Because he's got the morality.
He does.
He's got a good heart.
He does. So, read more of the U.S. Agent comic books. Just because there's so much Marvel television and stuff coming out, we are going to do an end of summer review of all of the Marvel and TV stuff and other related new things that came out. So we're going to talk more about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So look forward to that. At the end of the summer.
Yeah, this is his normal story arc. He's about to get a lot more extreme.
He's about to get a lot more extreme than this. Moving on to another modern one, because we're going to keep it with a little bit modern one. Spider-Woman. I love the Spider-Woman costume. It is so iconic. The lines are clean. The colors pop. It has had such a good run that every time she ends up changing into something, even temporarily, it comes back to this. And I liked her 2015 costume that got really popular. I loved
the one while she was pregnant.
The one while she was pregnant. I don't want to call it the mom suit, but it was neat. It was fun. And the thing is, Spider-Woman completely separated. Before we get to the picture, I want to make sure we lay this down.
Yeah, she's
they
basically
make it a point in the comic books in every way to say that she's not related to Spider-Man.
Yeah, in any way, shape, or form.
And when Spider-Man and Spider-Woman meet, they're like, no relation. When they both end up on the Avengers for the first time, it's like no relation. Their powers are unrelated. Their stories are unrelated. It's completely separate. And the colors really, really say that and really show that and make her own unique thing. And another thing about her that makes her unique from Peter Parker is that she's a spy. She starts off being tricked by Hydra, actually, into thinking that Hydra's the good guys. And she's sent to attack Nick Fury, and of course, you know how those things work out. She eventually finds out she's been lied to, and she becomes a spy for S.H.I.E.L.D., and she's a spy, an agent. So her mid-2010s costume actually has a really cool techie spy vibe to it. I like it. It reads for the character. It has enough of the elements of the original costume that you can look at it and go, oh, this is an updated Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
But then recently, just this year, we get
other one. I'm so sick of that yellow.
Yeah, they use it the wrong way. The yellow, it's like, oh, we're gonna put just enough of the yellow because it looks like the logo, and it doesn't.
For me, as a superhero costume, it tells villains you can shoot here or here.
Yes, in my head or in my sternum.
Right.
It's like line that laser up here.
There's some very good.
They're right in the sensitive.
They're right in the sensitive.
Like if you ever jab
center body mass, center of forehead.
Yeah, like if you ever jab a person with breasts in right there, that hurts.
That hurts. Without breasts, that hurts. Yeah, what are you talking about?
It's like, well, and the only other thing that I don't like, and this is a thing modern superhero costumes are doing, and I just hate it, is this weird crop top, like the thing going across the top and then putting no color beneath it.
Beneath it, yeah.
Like, you could have even put a little belt on there and I would have been like,
it would have been fine,
whatever.
Something, yeah.
But this trend where they're just like, we're going to put all the color up here and then just make everything else a solid color. They're doing it with a bunch of superheroes and I don't like it.
Well, also on this, the red has the spider webs and that reads Spider-Man. That reads Peter Parker Spider-Man. And in a way, with having it just at the top and the rest black, that reads Miles Morales Spider-Man. And it's like,
yeah, the colors are
ignores the part where she's completely separate from them.
Yeah, it's like because you're gonna look at this and look at the spider and look at the spider webs and say, oh, this is another spider.
And she's never had a spider. She had a sort of a spider on the other one, but mostly it's the
idea of spider
hourglass. It's that hourglass that reads kind of like a widow kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a design on a spider.
Really cool. It's a spider thing without being literal. Putting the spider on her, too literal. The color blocking, just weird. The yellow spots, unnecessary. There's no carryover. This is hideous. I'm sorry. It's just to me.
I don't care for it.
It checks off all the bad design points. In fact, I don't think it lasted more than like 10 issues because she's already back in her new costume. Her old costume.
And I'm over this weird trend where they're like, we're going to let your hair fly free in the wind. And it's like, especially now that I know she's a spy, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
We can't do it on that.
Her original costume actually didn't have the hair. Her original costume in her first appearance had like a complete skull cap.
Yeah, even if all she does is just like do something with it, it's like that's such a minor nitpick compared to everything else that I'm just like, it's more of a.
How do you know if she's sexy without the hair?
Yeah. Next one, we're talking about armor. Heroes that don't need armor.
Unnecessary armor.
Yeah, unnecessary armor. Captain America.
Captain America.
I don't think you get much more iconic than
438. Captain America 438 in 1995. He goes from, of course, this, which we all know and love, to this
freaking guy.
we don't know what this is. I mean, if you look at it afar, you're like, oh, it's kind of Captain America. When you get up close, it's like, huh?
It's really jarring to look at.
It's like, we've got the shield. Why do you need all this other stuff happening?
Well, and it's confusing to me because it's like, I get it. He's not immortal or infallible or anything, but he is a super soldier.
And his thing is he's peak athletic condition. He's peak strength.
What do you need armor for?
How is this not a hindrance?
It's like, yeah, and it's another issue of this is a part of the image of Captain America is that he is this giant, muscly super soldier. Mm-hmm. So putting more stuff on him.
Now, I will admit
it doesn't look scary to me.
I will admit that we didn't do our due diligence. I really honestly don't even know the story behind this in the comic book. We had other things that we were looking up, and this one just threw me off so bad. I will say this, that about the same time, Spider-Man also got a clunky suit of armor, but part of the story was him complaining about how clunky it was, and it was only necessary for like 1 or 2 missions and such, and it actually kind of looked cool.
Right. And they don't emphasize it enough, but if you look at the shoulders, they do the extreme shoulder pads, so it's not just the shoulder pads are sitting there, they're layered on top of each other.
It's the Sydney Opera House design that they put on stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's several of these back then in the 90s where it's just like stand out.
I guess
Station show maybe, I don't know.
I guess that was a thing they were trying to do in the 90s is that they're like, yeah, they're big, but let's make them
bigger.
And I'm like, I don't need them to be bigger. They're already huge. And also you could have just redesigned them bigger, And most of us didn't care basically until now.
Even the cuff on his boot is armored.
It is? Oh, no.
It's a metal cuff on his boot with a point. Like, how are you not stabbing your shins with this boot? What do you?
I don't like that.
There's so much of it not to like. But.
Yeah, it's like, and if you look up Armored Captain America, like there's better pictures that like emphasize what really looks weird.
But worse pictures. Bad pictures.
Because this doesn't look as armory as some of the Armored Captain America ones I've seen.
Now we did have the Armored Daredevil from that time on there, but
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it. I liked it. It had the layered shoulder pads kind of thing, but we left it off because it actually worked for him. It actually
because he is somebody that can get hurt without his stuff.
If you watch the Netflix show, he's just like one big walking scar and bruise, you know.
Yeah, it's like I didn't like the little.
The chin strap kind of threw it. Yeah, it was
if that was just a regular color, I wouldn't have cared.
Or if he just had the like his normal mask without the strap. But
yeah,
at least it was decent and it's classic. And there's actually an action figure out for it now that I kind of.
So we still got some space to go, and we're running out of time. So let's go to the next one. The
Wonder Man.
Now this one's back in 1977. This is one of the original Hawkeye costumes.
So the fun setup for this is this. When they came out with Wonder Man in the comic books, okay, Marvel Comics had Wonder Man. Stanley created him for Avengers and everything, and DC Comics comes in and goes, "You can't have Wonder Man because we have Wonder Woman, and that's going to be like infringing on our copyright or whatever."
Follow the copyright.
So they killed him. So they killed him off in the comic books, and then this is kind of what led Stan Lee to go, maybe we should make a Spider-Woman to make sure nobody steals Spider-Woman. And that's kind of how Spider-Woman came to be. But then. So just a few years later, DC Comics comes out with Power Girl. And at the time, Marvel had a really popular Luke Cage Power Man comics. And so Stan Lee's like, well, how is that fair? You tell me I can't use Wonder Man, but you use Power Girl. So he brings him back in the comic books. And he becomes friends with Beast from the X-Men, who's now an Avenger. And Beast creates him this costume. And it is just like, we don't even know what we're looking at.
It's so good.
It's this weird, gaudy red, green, and yellow Christmas. I call it the Christmas colors. It looks, yeah.
And the color bit, it's like the part between the yellow and the black is raised. So it's
yellow and green. It's just.
And also he was. Give me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he like an actor? So he's like.
Yes.
Really,
he's a Hollywood actor.
Handsome, famous guy.
Not actor, stuntman. He starts off as a stuntman, but then he becomes an actor. Yeah.
It's like, basically it's another shoulder pads one that I'm like, how dare you people?
But they've totally like, and I mean, he was totally out as Wonder Man as his real name.
Correct. He had
no real secret identity. So I don't get why they cover the face and the head and everything like that if he's like a famous guy and he's like all about. Publicity, self-publicizing himself. And all
it gets shredded in battle several episodes later.
It looks like a wrestling costume.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Luchador,
kind of, yeah. And Avengers 70s were not the best for redesigns. Okay, we're going to move on to Hawkeye. Now.
Oh, yeah, Hawkeye.
Whether or not you like this class, I love the classic Hawkeye design. I know a lot of people think that the wing mask is dumb and such.
It's not the wing mask. It's the.
I like the tunic. It has like the right kind of Archer kind of feel to me with like a modern color.
Yeah, it's one of those. I get it based on his character.
And from here we get a bunch of classic reiterations of it throughout the years, and such. But at one point in the comic book in the 70s. Ant-Man quits, and Hawkeye, Clint Barton, takes over as Giant Man and starts using the Pym particles to become Giant Man. Well, when he's done becoming Giant Man, he decides he's going to go back to being Hawkeye. And he goes back to Hawkeye in this outfit. Now, story-wise, the intention is for him to say, I'm no longer a criminal, because for those of you who don't know who Hawkeye's background in the comic book, he actually started off being controlled by the Ringmaster of the Circus of Crime before he became an Avenger. So this is him going, I don't have a mask. I'm like going to show my identity to the world. I'm Hawkeye and blah, 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 blah. But he goes to this with this tunic miniskirt. I mean, is he trying to look like some kind of purple Cupid?
Well, I think you were telling me that he also was still changing into Giant Man.
And still at one point, he ends up having to go back to the Giant Man particles for one of the stories. And it's like, I can only just imagine.
Right. And that's
a Giant Man and a
and that's a trend the folks in the 70s have to come to terms with it's
like giganta's loincloth. I'm like,
yeah, the loin. It's like the skirt's a little too small, but also just the weird low cut thing all the buff guys did in the 70s.
Well, this is the time that they also had Hercules on the team, and Hercules went to wearing just briefs, his Olympian belt, and like a leather harness. So he definitely
somebody had to fill
that was the first leather daddy Hercules.
It's like someone had to fill that old timey vacuum.
Correct.
Just how dare I don't know. It's one of those. It's not the biggest disaster we're about to come across, but this is still like, oh wow.
We get into the 80s. There's an Aquaman miniseries. They actually were trying to update Aquaman in the 80s. Let's go look at our classic design here. Everybody knows the orange and yellow Aquaman.
Right.
Orange and green Aquaman. It's a classic. I mean, they even managed to make Jason Momoa look amazing in this. You know, the trend of like, comic costumes won't translate. I love the gold and green Aquaman costume. They did an amazing job.
Right. I will admit it does look good.
Yeah. But for some reason they decided we're going to go completely off base with this miniseries, trying to reinvent Aquaman, and we get this blue swirly thing, which I just plain don't understand what they're trying to do here.
That is who is that for?
Too busy. I mean, there's like all these swirls all the way around.
Also, he has a mullet too. If you read the comic book, he has like a straight up. And it's not just a mullet; it's a curly mullet. He's like curly. It's all like full Jerry curly. It's crazy, like a perm. It's like Aquaman has a perm underwater. They did eventually use this suit for Aqualad when he became an adult. They actually kind of permutated this into a red and black costume that for some reason
and it does look better.
It worked.
It looks much better.
It looks much better. But this one, it's out. It's just out.
Yeah.
Here's some going back to the 80s, a little bit. We're still in the 80s. Black Canary. Everybody loves Black Canary's design. She's had some version of the leather jacket and the boots, and with or without the fishnets, you know, she looks badass. It's one of the few iterations where like the bare legs actually kind of I don't think that there's, you know, they're cool. She looks cool.
I don't mind it.
We don't mind it. However, for some reason they decided they were going to just cover her up in Detective Comics number 554, and they're so proud of it. It is so.
This one I had to argue with them about because it's like there are some things where I'm like, this is a disaster. There are actually some images of this specific costume I actually kind of like.
Well, you know, I have a friend who's a cosplayer, and she did this costume for Dragon Con. She loves to do like the wacky out there stuff, and she looks amazing.
She looks good in it too.
Yeah, she looks amazing. But it's a matter of, you know, how it's carried. This, however, it's the billowy sleeves and the loose turtleneck thing, and it's just kind
of the rest of it's super tight.
The giant canary wings, and the wings are too literal.
They're too literal. Yeah, they're trying to make this wing thing.
That's a little too much. It's like if that had been just part of the costume and a little bit more, I wouldn't have cared.
But flaring off.
And it's also a thing I have to come to terms with, which is I like bishop sleeves.
Yeah.
But bishop sleeves is one of those trends where either you really like them or you hate them.
You know, Firestorm is one of my favorite characters, and his original design had the bishop sleeves, and I just love it. I love it. It worked perfect on him. Like everybody's like, oh, he looks like a flamenco dancer. I'm like, I don't care. He looks great.
Yeah,
but here, I don't know. And the thing that I really don't like is the headband. And
the headband's a little too.
And the cuffs on the boots look like leg warmers. Like
this is kitsch.
Yeah.
This is very 80s kitsch.
This is what people call people thought it was Jane Fonda inspired because it looks like she's wearing some kind of a workout suit.
And it's really funny because when she decides to go to a different costume than this one, it actually shows her burning the costume.
Yes. Even DC Comics acknowledges how awful it is because on the cover she's like burning this
It's
costume.
really cute.
It is funny. Moving on to another Justice League disaster. Justice League of America 161, 1978 takes Santana.
Oh, we're gonna get
iconic.
Weird
iconic. Even when she's had like some other versions of this, it always reads stage magician because she's following in Zatanna's footsteps. And if you don't know Zatara.
Yeah.
So she's following her father, and she makes this cute little stage musician. I love the tails and everything. But for some reason, we end up getting this in 1978. What is infamously known as the Naughty Jazzercise vampire costume. Once again, necessary cleavage.
You're right. The cleavage isn't enough.
This weird black
The vampire cape for some reason.
Is that supposed to represent her magic? I don't know. But one thing we did find hilarious is every single panel of her, this ponytail is flipping around.
Her hair is so doofy. That is so silly.
Like, we don't know what kind of wind is going on in the Justice League Watchtower, but it's just like constantly flopping around.
Right. Well, and this one was a really funny story transition for us because when we were originally trying to find a bad Zatanna costume, there's one that's basically her regular costume, but everything's longer. It's like, and we went across that and we're like scrolling through Google and suddenly it's like, what is that?
So unfortunately, section 2, we're going to have to really race through because we only got 5 minutes left.
This one, just brace yourself. This is same hero, new identity.
Yes.
For some reason, in 1984,
Sue Storm
again becomes the evil villain Malice. Her mind is controlled by some other entity, and this is what we get.
This is our Sue Storm.
Mother and wife and feminist Sue Storm, who's invisible woman, becomes this S&M spike face. What? I don't know.
It's wild. I know.
Okay, and the next one is Speedball, who is a happy-go-lucky character.
Speedball of the New Warriors was super. I mean, you could tell his powers is literally to bounce around and create magical balls of light, and he's like a human bouncy house. He's a human bouncy house.
And one of the things that a lot of people hate about Civil War is that his character is traumatized to the point where he feels he is guilty for the death of thousands of people. So he becomes Penance.
Basically, he discovers he's so psychologically scarred, he can only use his powers when he's in pain. So he makes this costume Penance, which has spikes inside of it that constantly poke at him and cause him pain so that he can use his powers. And it's such a dark turn for a character.
It's
such
so
a horrible S&M kind of. It's just. I hate this so much. It's
seeing the before character and seeing the after character, and at the end of it, he's like, by the way, there's spikes in the costume, so he can deal with pain constantly. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Where did this come from?
What?
So next, we'll go a little lighter here.
A little lighter.
A funnier one.
Captain America again.
So the first time Captain America gives up his identity of Captain America, and this is actually the story where they first introduced John Walker as his replacement. Is he becomes Nomad, the man without a country.
This is 1974, Captain America number 180.
Yeah, after Civil War in the show, or in the movies, this is who he's supposed to be.
This is who he becomes. This is when he separates his identity as Captain America. He becomes Nomad, the man without a country. And for whatever reason, he's got a cape and a plunging neckline. And this really
these buff dudes in them
interesting
plunging neckline.
And I can handle the plunging neckline if it weren't for the mask with the collar. It's like
the mask is silly.
You know how like they say, somehow you feel more naked if you're naked with shoes than if you're completely naked. That's how I feel about this. That plunging neckline looks so much more inappropriate because he's got the mask on.
Right, he's covered head to toe everywhere else.
And here is Guy Gardner.
It's like, look at my pecs. Look at my pecs.
Guy Gardner, of course, the Green Lantern. He gets a new.
So this is interesting in that in the 90s, all the Green Lanterns were murdered by Hal Jordan when he went crazy and became Parallax, and you had one Green Lantern left, and that was Kyle Rayner. Well, they decided to spin Guy Gardner off into his own thing and give him alien powers so he could still be a superhero, and then they did this. I don't understand the tribal markings. It has nothing to do with any kind of Native American anything. It's all alien.
It's very silly.
It's very silly. I will point out, if you notice, this is yet another number 0. That's one of the worst offenders, and you can go back and we can show you a lot of other weird redesigns of characters. Is after 0 Hour, when DC decided to soft reboot their universe to kind of clean up some of the mess from the Crisis on Infinite Earths, that's when they decided, you know what, now's the time for us to get edgy, and then there's this plethora of edgy characters, and that's where another one.
So we're gonna race right along and get this last one in. Ant-Man,
Scott Lang. Okay, I like this one.
Myrmidon.
I like this one. This happens in Fantastic Four Unlimited number 9, I think, in the 90s.
That was just so wild.
If you watched one of our other episodes, we were talking about the original monsters of Marvel. They brought some of them back. They brought one called Grotto, which is this giant ant, kind of inspired by them, who in that comic book like turned people into his drones. For those you don't know, Myrmidon is another term for a drone or mindless drone, and it's in reference to the ant drones. So Scott Lang is infected by this whatever and turn into Myrmidon's or turn into Grotto's slave, and he becomes this weird ant thing that is just so bizarre. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Now the cool thing about this is real quick is that this what's the artist I said from G.I. Joe?
Oh, now of course I was.
The artist basically, it was he had done a lot of stuff for Marvel, and it was his last job, and he wasn't offered a renewal on his contract. So he went all out redesigning this, and he even at the end gave Scott another really actually kind of cool costume, hoping that, they would see his work and keep him on and everything.
It looks so much better.
But yeah, and it looked really cool too, but it didn't get picked up, and so that's the only one it's appeared in.
So everybody, you guys take care. Thank you for watching, and yeah.
Make sure you're here for us in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about the Hellfire Gala.
Yep, come get your issues. It looks real good.
Yeah. Like and subscribe. Go to Kaiju Lab Meetings on YouTube. We're on Twitch. Are we on?
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, if you go to our website, bradsredweb.com, you can see all of the streaming places we are. Make sure you check us out and give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you again.
And thank you, Dragon Slayer, for letting us film here.
Thank you for letting us film here. We're going to have a lot of fun this summer, and we look forward to seeing you.
All right.